Hi everyone. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be with you today, but I wanted to let you know that I'm not there for a good reason. I am at the Land Heritage Institute in San Antonio, Texas. Look how beautiful it is. And there are all sorts of very cool old abandoned buildings there. So the Land Heritage Institute in San Antonio, Texas is a living museum of landworks. So, from what I can gather, artists can come out there and use their land to create landworks that are then kept on so that other people can come and visit them. So, anyway, I'm here and I am with this woman. This is my friend Carol Lafayette. She's the director of Institute for Applied Creativity at Texas A&M University. And she was the one who invited me to do this. Coincidentally, she was also our honorary doctorate recipient from last year's commencement. So Carol Lafayette makes artwork about ants. Specifically, she makes artwork about leafcutter ants. And she happened upon this in sort of an interesting way. She was walking around Texas and she was looking at the trees after the leaves had fallen down. And she was looking up at them and she kept wondering what it would look like. Like she really wanted to see the tree with no dirt so that she could look up and see all of the branches and that she could look down and she could see all of the roots. And so she teamed up with some other departments at Texas A&M and she started asking, if there were ways that they could go about doing this. So she told this really great story about how she worked with other departments at Texas A&M to use radar to see under the ground. And that's where the ants came in. So the radar showed not just what Carol wanted to see, but it also showed these pretty amazing slices of what the leafcutter ants' tunnels looked like under the earth. And this was sort of new, from what I understand. This was not something that entomologists really had an understanding of. So by Carol starting this venture and finding these groups to work with, she and her team were able to take this research into a new direction. So Carol then teamed up with a 3D animator who worked in the Department of Visualization at Texas A&M, and they used 3D modeling software to recreate the ant tunnels, allowing entomologists the first time to have a better opportunity to study the ant colony. So it's a pretty exciting collaboration. She's a pretty terrific and amazing person. I am not out here to do anything with ants. I am actually out here to work with her MFA students and to do a presentation of my own work. But anyway, I thought Carol would be a pretty terrific segue into systems. So systems, this is probably something that you've already heard the other faculty speak about, but systems is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or in an interconnecting network. So when you Google systems, which you inevitably will, you might discover something called systems thinking. So systems thinking is slightly different than systems, but what it is it's a problem-solving process that allows artists, designers, engineers, it allows anyone to answer really complicated questions by looking at all of the interconnected groups associated with a particular system. So I found this slide. The question is, how do you make a product when the client is anti-commercial? So this is a seemingly contradicting goal, but through looking at systems and how things are connected, you might be able to start to figure out a solution to this problem. So here's a couple of other examples. How do you mass produce something for a client who values handmade products? How does an artist interested in politics ensure that all facets of her work address that interest? And the last one is probably my favorite. How do you design for the end user? So since I usually make some sort of reference to fashion, let's just use fashion for an example. So when you design a garment, it's going to go out there ideally, and it's going to be shown off, and you're going to have a target audience, and somebody is going to purchase your garment. That's going to be the first user, the first person who's going to buy that garment and wear it. Well, inevitably, at some point, she's going to stop wearing that garment for one reason or the other. And then that garment is going to go somewhere else. Maybe it's going to go to a thrift store. Maybe it's going to go to a younger sister or to a friend. Well, that is now the second user. And then maybe that person is going to wear it for a long time, and then eventually it's going to rip or break, and then maybe someone else is going to take that and they're going to repurpose that fabric or that design and turn it into something else, not unlike what you all do when you find materials. So the question could be, as a fashion designer, how do you design not just for the first person that's going to buy your product, but how do you design for that person and the second person and the third person? And why would you even want to do something like this? This is a lot of work. Well, ultimately, it could be a way to keep your brand out there. So these are some of those questions that systems and systems thinking can bring up. All right, I'm just going to show one artist today, and I'm going to take a little bit of a departure. This is an ode to my graphic design students out there in the audience. This is Ellen Lupton. Even though I'm only just showing one artist, she, I promise you, is one heck of a terrific artist. So Ellen Lupton is kind of like the example of what happens if you research a system so much that your research becomes your project. So I'm looking at her as an example of research becoming the system. So here's Ellen. Ellen teaches at the Maryland Institute College of Art. She's a graphic designer, but she is also a curator. And what she has investigated, what she was really interested in, was how companies market appliances to women, and how they have done this for a very, very long time, marketing appliances to women. What she was also interested in is how a female audience and having a female audience helped inform design considerations as well as advertising. And in the process of doing all of this investigation, she compiled this really terrific book, which examines strange imagery, like this picture on the right-hand side. What do we have here? This is a toaster, and it says something old, something new, and wait a minute, is that an engagement ring? And some lilies there? Obviously, this toaster is not being sold to men. There's an assumption that this toaster is only going to be used by the woman in the household, and she's going to use it, and maybe even by buying this toaster, she might actually get her husband to propose to her. That's what Ellen is super interested in looking at. All right, so when I was looking at Ellen, it reminded me of this really terrific Twitter feed called Man Who Has It All. So we are so used to seeing female stereotypes used to sell stuff to women that these statements seem really absurd. So this guy, gal, Man Who Has It All, is trying to call attention to this absurdity by pretending that the reverse is true. So if we look at this, it says, "Why do adverts for cleaning products only ever feature men? Isn't it time we saw a woman with a mop in her hand?" Dad with a career? Resist the urge to fade into the background at work. Start by choosing clothing that is both comfortable and flattering. All men! Planning your outfits for the week on Sunday will save you so much time and trouble. Once you start, you will never look back. Imagine if men were actually doing this. Women are told to do these crazy things all of the time, and we're like, oh yeah, if I were really awesome, I would lay my clothes out the Sunday before. Let's see this one. All men, find the perfect career for your skin type. Oily, normal, combination dry, or acne prone. Can you imagine But this is out there. Women always get advice to find jobs that work best for how they look. What does how you look tell you what kind of job you're supposed to get? It's really silly stuff. Today's debate, can a childless man ever be truly happy? And then because of the season that we're currently in, busy working dad, you don't have to look sexy at Halloween. If you don't want to, it's the one day of the year you can look scary. All right, so back to Ellen Lupton. Here is some more of the images that she's working with. So we can see up here, this is an RCA ad. RCA Victor portables put on a beautiful front and back it up with reliable solid copper circuits. So this ad is from 1966 and it's comparing a television set to a woman. Both have lovely faces and sturdy, dependable backsides. And then here we have another woman. This image is just completely crazy, but it's showing this woman looking incredibly productive. She's like multitasking 5 or 6 different things. But we also have a view of her where we can still see her in a skirt and heels looking very beautiful. This is another house cleaning ad that Ellen Lupton found and curated into her book. And then these are some more pages, and I'll read some of the quotes from these. Feminists need to take a serious, sustained, and sympathetic interest in the home. The sharing of housework is unlikely to occur if women continue the denigration of its value. Why would men want to help if the work is seen as degrading? If housework is despised, it will be performed by someone whose sex, class, or race consign her to an inferior status. Since buying is only the climax of a complicated relationship based to a large extent on the woman's yearning to know how to be a more attractive woman, a better housewife, a superior mother, etc., use this motivation in all of your promotion and advertising. And that was from the Feminine Mystique, 1963. But you can see what Ellen is doing. She's really trying to draw your attention and to get you to think critically about these images, and then hopefully to look at your images that are currently in front of you critically, to look for similar systematic patterns. All right, we're nearing up here. I'm aware that I'm approaching the 13-minute mark. How does Ellen put all of this together? Well, she uses her graphic design skills to look for creative solutions to pairing lots and lots of imagery, both black and white and color, together. And then she also looks for a font so that she can then reinforce the feminine imagery that she's seeing in these pieces, reinforce that feminine imagery in the text. So here's a whole collage of images. Up in the top right corner, we see a woman hugging her ironing board. In the bottom image, a woman is plugged into a variety of appliances. Looks like she's on her phone. She's got a hair dryer on top of her head. And then here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a woman and her family gathered all around her as she tags her new washing machine with a heart. So you can see what I'm trying to get you to see is that not only is Ellen looking for a way to put all of these things together, but each one of her images is about a woman being surrounded by all of this stuff and embracing and touching all of this stuff. And so she has curated these images together to show that. All right, last 2 slides. This book, Mechanical Bride, was so incredibly effective that Ellen Lupton was invited to the Cooper Hewitt Museum of Design to do a curated show featuring the objects and the images from this book, taking a really close look at women in design. So here's one of the shots from that. This is just looking at the basement. And then here's another image. This is my last slide. So she reimagines the pages of her book as a curated experience of image, object, and advertisement. All right, thank you. I miss you, and good luck, and enjoy your studio tour.